Pyramids are like the seeds of the creation. So actually, when we talk about pyramids, we shouldn't see just the upper part. We have to see also that they were built in places with water under. So the water represents the opposite side. So pyramid, the name pyramid means fire, phyros. So it's like the fire and the water that creates the two aspects of the self, which is the seed of creation. And if you see all the geometry of the universe, icosahedron, dodecahedron, hexahedron, and the both tetrahedrons in the center, what you find in the core of it is an octahedron. The octahedron is like two pyramids, one above and one below, and they represent the core, the system, the core of the system of the entire geometry in the existence. So basically, the reason why people started to create the pyramids was to communicate with the divine, because they knew not only that they would connect with the heaven, but also to the core of God. And this is why the Atlantean civilization started to design the pyramids with chambers inside in order for them to be able to sit inside and connect with the entire universe. All the pyramids around the world create like a pattern, like a net of connection that that opens portals for each one of the constellations that are in the sky. So basically, there are specific pyramids related to a specific constellation and specific information. So they all were connected in the same network. Now they are all separated. But before it was the way they had to communicate. It was like the internet of that time. So whatever someone uploaded in one of the pyramids, they could also hear it when they were meditating in other pyramids. It was a net of communication. The pyramids are maybe 20% functioning today. They don't actually have the same abilities that they had before because they are broken. People with an awareness inside that making noises, destroying the shape of it. So they were broken throughout wars, forgotten. Also because they were aligned with the North Pole, and the North Pole has been moving along. Also, the time when the pyramids were built, the physical North Pole was pointing into another direction, and now it's pointing into a different star, which is Polaris. So, because it's not the same position, it also, the magnetic field is not in the same position, so it's not powerful enough. And because nobody has been updating the system, and most of the places where are pyramids, you're not allowed to do that because they are just archaeological sites, so you're not supposed to do anything. So it's like all machines that are not connected. But when you use them once and again, and a lot of people goes once and again, they can amplify part of that information. I wasn't present during the construction of the pyramids, but I know that they were built with sound. So the architects at that time, they designed the whole project by creating roads along in the case of Egypt, through the Nile, and they were bringing the stones by cutting them with water in the south, and then bringing them with pillars of vibration. So they were accommodating them with a specific, like, ultrasonic that created like a vacuum of vibration in the stones, and they vibrated so high that actually they were not heavy. They were like very easy to move. The perfection in which they were built shows you that, of course, in Atlantean times there were not slaves. So everyone involved in the construction was a specific architect. There were not slaves. There were no people with no awareness working on the pyramid, because it's precise in every millimeter. So it was not, there were no slaves in the constructions, but also no spaceships. Like, some people think that aliens helped to build it, but actually the only aliens that were close by, they were just given tools to know how to construct some parts of it, but it was not like levitating stones with spaceships. It were people with the knowledge of knowing how to use frequency, vibration, in order to move the structures. We call sacred geometry to the geometry that has a specific pattern that we can analyze like pure. Actually, all the geometry is basically sacred because the geometry is the one that creates everything that exists. So all the patterns that are in nature are sacred. But when we find the specific patterns that gave us a pure image of the geometry and how the fractalization of it creates depth, so we suddenly find portals towards other dimensions and time and space. So we call it sacred because it enables us to find ways to communicate with other dimensions, and it gives us data, information that usually in the nature we cannot see. Channeling is basically to be a channel, a canal, from where one thing that is in one side goes to the other side. Which means that everything that has been designed by polarity is a channel. And we are polar beings. Everything that has a positive and a negative is channeling, because otherwise we'd be dead. So we have a head that goes up, so we are positive, and our feet and root chakra is heading down, so it's negative. So we are absorbing or discharging negative energy to the ground and the positive to the sky, which means that we are channeling all the time, like if we are radio stations. So every living being is a channeler by nature. We channel statics, we channel emotions, we channel thoughts, ideas, the weather, the humidity, the statics of the thunderstorm. We are constantly channeling things, but we don't pay attention to those channels because they are imperceptible. And we usually tend to say that there are people that channel, because we are talking about people that are able to channel beings or to receive messages from other dimensions. But that's not only channeling. You can channel every day just by opening yourself to receive. And sometimes you are going to open yourself to receive information from a tree. And it doesn't have to be a fifth-dimensional master or someone that speaks through you. This is because some people are able to channel specifically from other dimensions. But there are some people that are specifically designed to channel emotions. So the empath, for example. So to be an empath is also to be a channeler. You can feel the emotions of others. You can channel the conflicts of others, understand what is in the pattern of energy. So we are actually all channelers in different levels. And we can all learn how to use that, because usually we can get lost in the channeling and we can be hurt by others' emotions or by other beings in other dimensions. So basically, in order to be a channeler, what we have to do is to have our center very wide open. And because we are mammals and we try to survive, biologically trying to survive all the time, what we usually do or tend to do is to protect ourselves from the outer side, from other people, from the animals, from the weather. So this also happens emotionally and energetically, that we close our system, so every chakra gets closer. And one of the things that happen when we close it, or one of the reasons why it happens, is because we feel something can kill us or something can hurt us. And that's why traumas, conflicts, low emotions usually block the chakras. So when we have those chakras blocked because of stuff that could have happened, or traumas or wounds, so what happens is that the channel is not clean, and we are protecting ourselves from concepts or personality. And in order to channel, what we have to do is to allow ourselves to get passed through. Like when you channel, you don't have to receive something and keep it. You have to be like a tree when a lightning comes from the sky and goes down to the earth. So that's the way in which we usually channel. That energy doesn't belong to us. We are just a portal for it to go to the ground and discharge the magnetical field and the statics of it. So in order to open yourself to channel, you have to have all the center very clean. Otherwise, if you have one of the chakras closed, it means that that energy will go through, but it will get stuck. And it can hurt you or confuse you because it's not your own energy. So what I would recommend for the practice of channeling is not to channel high beings, but to try to perceive the emotions of others, to be open to the ideas of others. That's also channeling. To be not to be closed to your own way of doing things, but to be open to receive other feelings, other emotions, other ideas, and also hugging a tree and feeling the channel that a tree has inside. Feeling the statics in nature, touching the ground, feeling how you're connected to it. So that's also a starting process of channeling. Yeah, Atlantis is basically the civilization that I remember. Not because I've lived in the capital, but because I was part of one of the colonies. We used to call Atlantis Hephaestion, and our culture was Hem. So the civilization was kind of very similar. So we have the same traditions and everything. And this civilization for me is the most important for our history, basically because what they discovered, what they did, it shaped the idea of all the rest of the cultures in the world. Maybe not all of them. For some native people, they didn't. But the Atlantean culture started 15,000 years ago, during the glaciation. And during that period, most of the people were living very close by or somehow connected. Just a few people were disconnected from the Atlantean civilization that has been spreading around the world. Just maybe some in South America and some in Australia were the only ones that really were disconnected from what was happening in Atlantis. So because of that, most of the culture of this civilization have been spread at least in a 1% in the origins of all the rest of the cultures, languages, traditions, buildings, everything. So today, this civilization is very important for us because it's the root, the mother of all the rest, the mother of all our traditions, the mother of all our beliefs, our ideas on how to rule the planet. And even if it changed a lot on how things were done in that time, the essence of it is basically the same. And today, actually, is very concrete the relationship we have with that civilization, because if you take a look into the cycle of the planet, it takes almost 24,000 years for the Earth to make a whole cycle of equinoxes. So you have to picture it like if it's a clock. So 24 hours, 24 degrees for the North Pole to make the whole turn. So it takes 24,000 years approximately to do the whole turn, which means that every 12,000 years you are reflected in the history. The Atlantis civilization ended 12,000 years ago, which means that we are in the reflection of it. Atlantis was a civilization that started during the Virgo era, and our civilization today is finishing the Pisces era, which is a reflection of Virgo Pisces. And we are starting the age of Aquarius, and they were starting the age of Leo. So we are exactly in the same alignment in the other side of the circle. We are exactly aligned with the moment of when Atlantis ended. So what happened in that civilization at the end is a reflection of what is happening now to our civilizations. Alchemy is an Arab term that means the chemistry, al-chem, and it's related to all the physicians that existed in Egypt that were putting together all the chemicals in order to find the way to create medicine from the poisons. So an alchemist would be someone that, first of all, tried to see how to change matter to create something new. But then, by doing that, they discover the ways in which you, as a person, can transform yourself into a god. So that's why the alchemists, from being scientists and physicians, turn out to be magicians. We have, as humans, the tendency to try to heal because we don't want to suffer. But actually, an illness is like a like a notification of the body saying, hey, there's something that you haven't really paid attention to, so I think you have to. So an illness is not when someone is bad. The illness is actually the beginning of the healing process. So usually we confuse that by saying that we have to heal the illness. And actually the illness is there to say I'm trying to heal this conflict that I don't know where it comes from. So in the spirituality, what we have to do is to try to think about the healing not for the illness, but use the illness as a way to guide us to the origin of the conflict, which usually is emotional and energetical. So the healing process is understanding, is not the cure. My guides, they don't have a face. I usually see them like a person that doesn't look like a person, and their eyes are very shiny, but they don't really have a face. So they just look like ghosts that just talk to me with a lot of naturality. Yeah, there are many different frequencies in the entire planet, and I think that what we have to understand about dark places or light places is that for some people, dark places can be light places. It's depending on your level of consciousness. For example, I know people that feels like in heaven in Las Vegas, no? But Las Vegas is actually one of the most dark places in the world. All that region of Nevada is a well of darkness that goes deep into the ground, grabbing all the information that is around towards a point of gravity that is very dark. And people was using it for a long time, even before the States. but it's compensated by the point of light, which is in Arizona. So it's like you need, when you have a huge high frequency of connectivity with the divine, you need to compensate that. So usually in a very, very high frequency place, like for example Tibet, you need a very low frequency, like some places in China. So it's to compensate the high frequency of a place with a lower one. So it balances the energies. Usually they are together. Sometimes I received information about the future, about things that happen. I wouldn't say that I predict the future. I might receive information on what to take care of or be careful with, or these kind of things. So sometimes some things that had happened, I kind of know because I follow a pattern of every 2 years, that I know kind of what I have to do. It's something that I received when I was 12 years old, that they told me what to do every 2 years, and what they told me, basically it's happening. Kids should learn emotions at school. All the rest will come up, but the first 7 years of school should be about how to handle your own energy, which is emotions. With that, you can do whatever. But learning letters when you're 7 years old doesn't make any sense. You will learn it anyway, whatever. The school of the future for me would be a place where there is no segregation by ages, and it's a place where everyone gets together to propose a conflict or a problem, and different people needs to propose solutions to that conflict. So it's all about solving something. Education used to be that. Education in the first ages, in the first schools of history, was about, we have this problem and we don't know how to solve it. Do you have any idea? And the teacher was there just to guide them, not to give them the answers, but to guide them to see maybe there are other ways in which you can reach the same answer. But I think it will come back to that natural sharing of how to solve a problem. When a lot of people start to do activations around the planet, suddenly the weather changes, and it starts to move the magnetical field. And when that happens, the pineal gland of the brain starts to change too. So as you move the magnetical field through storms, what happens is that also the animal's pineal gland and human's pineal gland switch towards that. So it's awakening. It's an awakening process, channeling process. Everything starts to move faster. Climate change is a natural process in nature. It's not caused by humans. Humans are doing it a little bit worse, but actually it's a process that was supposed to happen in this period of time. We are still getting out of a glaciation. So it's getting warmer by nature. It's not that we are doing it, but even though we are doing it worse or faster. So what we can do with activations is to start balancing our process with the heating of the planet. So we can not reverse it, but balance it. Balance it towards what we are going together. We are beginning the age of Aquarius, and Aquarius means innovation and technology. In the 60s, when people were talking about Aquarius, they talked about this paradise of humanity, that everyone were living in communities and these kind of things. But that's much more a Pisces way of thinking on how Aquarius should be. Aquarius, if you know Aquarian people, they're all weird. So nobody knows what is going to happen, actually. You can never expect what is going to happen in Aquarius, but you can expect that they will find a way to do exactly the opposite to what you expect from them. And imagine that for 2,500 years. A civilization that will innovate every day, and you cannot adapt because you have no idea what is going to happen. The next 2,000 years will be very technological. AI will be like the common sense of humanity, and will take over as a new way of consciousness. This is nature. This is something that is going to happen. We think that we create this, but actually it's the mineral realm using us to create this. So the problem that we face is not AI, it's our consciousness. Because AI learns from us. So what we do, the AI will do. And if we are still in conflict, war, racism, and all this kind of conflicts that we have today, so AI will learn from that and do the same with us. So I don't think that is a bad thing, technology in this next 2,000 years. It's actually a very good expansion for consciousness, a very good practice to integrate consciousness. Dimensions are basically to go through different dimensions, to go through different measurements of only one thing. So, for example, a human, it's only one being that has many dimensions at the same time. So now in this reality, we have 3 dimensions that we can control, let's say, which is high, wide, and depth. So that's why 3rd dimension. But we also used a 4th one, but we don't know how to control it, which is time. So the movement of this 3rd dimension is the 4th dimension. And inside of it, we have the information, which is the 5th dimension. And going beyond, you have the transformation of the 3 aspects, which is the 6th dimension, and so on. So actually, the dimensions are not something far away in the cosmos, are just different aspects of yourself here. And your brain, your body are used and designed to understand these 3 realities in order to be able to move through this world. But when you transcend this world, or the idea of this world, you start to live the 4th dimension, which is you start to remember your past lives, you start to connect with ideas of the future, and you start to live the present like never before. So you start to live the 4th dimension, and things happen very fast, and you don't understand why it's happening so perfectly. That's usually the 4th dimension. You start to feel, to sense, to listen to other beings. And then the masters come and they start to guide you and to show you the maps, which is the 5th dimension. So actually we are living constantly in all the dimensions, but just paying attention to one of them. Let's compare this with a song, for example. When you listen to a song, or a musician would know how to interpret this, the thing that gives meaning to the song is the silence. It's not the notes. So the silence in between is the one that helps you understand the movement of the music. So death is the silence of life, which is the song. Without death, there's no meaning to life. So, but in the same way as a song, in every silence, in every breath you take in the middle of a song, it keeps going. So, because the universe is basically a constant wave of frequency. So it never stops. life keeps going. Energy keeps going. Even if sometimes it goes down, it never disappears. It's just silence for a moment, so it gains forces to rise up again. So death is not the end. It's the end of a concept, of an experience that you had. So when you try to when you think about yourself like if this is the only reality that you can possibly live, and you don't release the ego of it, like the control of that reality, you will always fear death, because actually it's not the fear of dying, it's the fear of losing who you are. But when you become aware that you are everything, when you suddenly remember that the universe is actually you, and how everything is connected, so death will be like a holiday or another trip. And I remember that in the past traditions, in Atlantean times, we used to celebrate death. And the first thing that people would say when we were born was, "Welcome to life, the path towards death." And we were prepared to die all our lives. Today is the opposite. Like, we have to live because one day we will die. And actually, in the ancient cultures, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Like, yeah, so I have to create my best experiences. I have to be happy, not because I don't know what would happen after, but because it will be a new adventure. And when we start to change these concepts of death like a new adventure instead of the end of what I'm now, dying becomes something totally light, not the end of anything. Yeah, many deaths. And in most of them, I had no idea how to enjoy it. So I was attached to different... so my previous life. For example, 900 years ago, I died in Jerusalem, or close by tuberculosis. In the streets, nobody to take care of me, so I was just there. There was I remember a Jewish gal that just came by and gave me some bread, and that was the last memory I have. And I remember that I felt that I was losing my faith too. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm dying here, and there's no purpose on anything. So it was not always good. I remember dying by being killed, being hanged, being drowning in the middle of the ocean. So many different deaths that now I can speak them like naturally. But when I started to remember that when I was 13, it was terrible, because I was feeling it. I was feeling every death, and how horrible it was, because I had no consciousness about it. I only remember maybe 2 or 3 deaths that were conscious, and it was great what happened after. What happens after you die is related to the consciousness you have when you die, or the emotion you have when you die. Like, it's not the same dying like this than like this. The disposition of the body on the moment of the death is expansion or contraction. So when you contract in the death, it's like you are held to everything, so you start to see everything dark. And like this fear of, I don't want to lose it, I don't want to lose it. So that's how you become like a ghost for at least a few days or weeks, and some people for centuries. Like, you get attached so much to your life that you don't want to leave. But what suddenly happens is that you think that you're alive, and you keep living the same life, but in a loop. But you don't realize that it's a loop. You don't realize time, because it's the 4th dimension. So that happens when usually you are attached. Then there's a middle point in which there's a process where you start to feel someone that is talking to you, and someone that says, "Come with me, I will guide you here," like an angel or someone known. So they take you to a path and to recognize, oh, this was your home, do you remember? But to get there, usually people goes through the dark, goes through a moment of nothing until you start to put it all together. It's like going to sleep. It's like going to sleep, but eventually you start to dream. So most of the night we don't remember anything. It's like all black. And suddenly you start to live a life again. Well, imagine that, but after you die, like going to sleep, and suddenly you wake up doing crazy stuff. So that would be basically how what happened after. It's not like immediately you go to a tunnel of light and suddenly you see angels or whatever. Well, no, then no. I'm not a guru. I think I love to be an educator more than a guru, because I'm not trying to bring people from darkness to light. What I'm trying to do is to people to understand why light exists and why darkness exists, and what can you do with both of them. So I'm kind of neutral in all of this.